Welcome back everyone, and it's time to go balls deep. Today we are talking about Deku's dark transformation. This shit is, I'm gonna say it.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Fire! The drip has finally overtaken our boy. He originally strived to become like All Might. But now, Deku's mind has changed. His will is being attacked, and now he's forgetting what it means to be a hero. He literally has told All Might he doesn't want him as a butler to help anymore.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
My Hero Academia Chapter 300 My Hero Academia Chapter 317 explores the downfall of Deku, where All for One is attacking his spirit and willpower to keep moving forward into their destined fight. This is the ultimate plan to make One for All easier to steal, as the quirk can be stolen if the holder has a weaker willpower than All for One, right? We see many burdens on Deku's shoulders. If you have been following our channel, you would know what these are. That's why you must hit the notification bell for the channel as a way to stay on the same page as the rest of the community. For example, our balls deep prediction quirk came true in chapter 317, where the promise Deku made to All Might to not die by the hands of his destiny was referenced. This was back when Night Eye stated he saw All Might would perish in the near future, but Deku promised he will become a hero that can defy this fate to save his life. The downfall of Deku's nature has made him forget all about this, all the promises that he made before and the nature that he had, since he can only focus on All for One and the heavy burdens on his shoulders. He's isolating himself from others and going against the ideals he established earlier in the series. The chapter begins with the remaining top heroes discussing Deku and All for One. We learn that they narrowly escaped the explosion, however they couldn't get any leads from the mansion as everything was blown to bits. If you even believe for a second from the last chapter that any of these heroes died from such an anticlimactic way, I have nothing to say to you. Shut your Now the heroes can't ask Lady Nagant for intel because she isn't in a condition to speak. In fact, it's a miracle that she survived becoming crispy fried chicken with the explosion. Put F in the comments to those that were thirsting over Lady Nagant, because my girl, that thick thing is no longer gonna be the one that you're thinking. Edgeshot suggests that it's time to gamble by gathering all the remaining heroes and reveal Deku's secret of One for All to everyone.
Hey yo, what the
This is because if they reveal One for All's secret, they can form a network of investigations as one force, rather than splitting their attention and not sharing information. Mount Lady interjects, telling us that if they were to do that, then it would only put more pressure upon Deku, and at first they should exhaust all their options before letting out a secret to the world that would change society forever. Every day, more and more heroes are throwing in the towel, and they are losing strength while Shigaraki and the rest of the villains are only recovering faster each day. We know for a fact that All for One is waiting for Shigaraki to reach 100% on his body transformation to eventually take over. Endeavor agrees, and the story uses Death Arms as an example of what Deku is actually going through to show a parallel, meaning that if more burdens were added to his palette, he will definitely break under pressure. Endeavor informs us that Death Arms retired 2 nights ago. He was heavily involved in the investigations and was working endlessly in a selfless manner that a hero should. However, he was still criticized and blamed by the people for causing the apocalypse. The public perception has been molded by All for One and the corrupt agencies within heroes that Lady Nagant tried to expose. For example, in chapter 306 during the press conference, the media blamed Endeavor and Hawks for their failure to protect the peace. Death Arms stated that he struggled without a moment's rest. However, in return, he only received criticism and doubt, where his actions should have speaked louder, but it was drowned by all the noise of self-righteous people that haven't achieved anything criticizing the heroes that try their best, as heroes are only human just like them. He states how one negative comment hits harder than 10 positive ones ever could. My man just summarized social media, Twitter in one freaking sentence. And to be honest, this is something very relatable to me. Mental health is just as important as physical health, and I feel like Horikoshi is exploring it quite well. Like being a YouTuber, you are constantly criticized as a public figure rather than a normal person that could make mistakes. Everyone wants you to be perfect and to project the perception that they have of you at all times in every video and in public and in social media. Even trying to be honest in the anime community, it's ridiculously hard, where we even receive death threats fam, just for criticizing certain anime. So imagine a real life situation of heroes versus villains, bruh. Frankly, having an opinion is slowly becoming illegal. So all of this ended up taking its toll on Death Arms, who is a veteran hero that went through the task of leading the exposure of the PLF spies. So it's not that Death Arms didn't have the mental fortitude, rather public perception can break a man's soul. Deku is a person that is trying to save the world from tyranny, quite literally. If this was made public and they view him negatively, it would break Deku's soul, and therefore his will to keep one for all would also die, right? At the end of the day, Deku was a quirkless 16-year-old boy that strived to be a hero. If a veteran can decide to quit, what will Deku feel?
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Okay, before I go any further, I must tell you about a special offer.
Nani?
Right now, Crunchyroll are currently giving away a free 14-day trial of Crunchyroll Premium to anyone that signs up at crunchyroll.com/animeballsd. This doesn't cost you anything, and if you haven't checked out Crunchyroll since its significant update, you are truly missing out.
What do you mean by that?
Crunchyroll has updated its app on mobile where you can download anime offline, and everything is much more pleasant to use to give you a better experience. Imagine watching anime on the train offline where there's no signal.
Oh my god!
Signing up means no ads, no pop-ups, no fake subtitles, you save time, and there's no bullshit.
Holy moly.
Admit it, those pop-ups and captures on illegal sites, they annoy all of us. I sure as heck don't miss them since I have Crunchyroll. It's even more important that you have access to your favorite anime on multiple devices such as mobile, PS4, PS5, tablet, PC in full HD. Crunchyroll has episodes only after an hour after they aired in Japan with English translations. A few anime that I personally recommend would be big names such as Tokyo Revengers, To Your Eternity, Black Clover, and Jujutsu Kaisen. So sign up at crunchyroll.com/animeballsd with the link in the description for a free trial that will give you access to all your anime needs. In chapter 317, we learned that retired heroes are also leaking information to the media piece by piece. The public will eventually put everything together and find out about One for All. Hawks then says that in the world of chaos, strength rules above all, which refers back to All for One's ideology, where he believes chaos is what the world needs to breed a healthy society. However, this goes against the message of My Hero Academia, which is that there is a hero within all of us if we strive for it. Anyone can be selfless and great just like Deku did, whereas in All for One's world, it's only the strong that matter, where he is a dictator. All of you are probably wondering at this point, why doesn't All for One just make it public then? It will make him win, right?
Nani?
Well, the reason is if All for One makes One for All public, the news agencies and civilians will learn of his quirk. The heroes will then counter this argument by having no choice to reveal the history of All for One and his tyranny and all the secret intel. They would have to explain why Deku has become the only person that could save them against the one man that is causing the destruction in the first place. They would have no other cards left on the table. So if the public rallies behind Deku and supports him, it will be the opposite effect of what All for One wants, rather than benefiting him in the war. This is when we see the first signs of Deku's downfall begin. Deku absolutely bodied the second assassin that was sent to him, fam.
It was at this moment he knew he fucked up.
Completely smashing the guy and leaving him laying there unable to fight. The panel portrays Deku's eyes no longer being cheerful, no longer smiling. If we take a look at Deku from season 1, when his hero costume was introduced, we were told it was meant to represent a boy that always smiles when people are in trouble. But now it's tattered and he's distorted in every way, symbolically and literally, right? We explore Deku's heroism to become the #1 hero in greater detail, explaining what the the ending of My Hero Academia will actually be. This analysis will definitely come true and it's being displayed to you right now. So if you want to understand Deku's downfall, you must watch it to see how impactful these new chapters are going to be with his development. Deku wastes no time, and after finding out the assassin had no extra intel, he swiftly moves on to the next one, warning All Might of any potential explosive. However, All Might makes Deku halt, telling him that he still hasn't eaten any food, offering him his favorite. Deku informs his butler All Might, and at this point his dad, "Leave me alone!
Get the fuck out of my room! I'm playing Minecraft!"
He explains that he no longer needs his help and he can handle everything himself. He declares to All Might that he is fine, whilst remembering what All For One said in the previous chapter about Deku being next. All Might thinks back to chapter 130 when Deku confronts him about the secrets he had held back, about the mistakes he made during the time with Night Eye and their partnership. Deku proclaims that he can do it already. He can now move like All Might could, at 100%, so he should stop worrying. By the way, just to clarify, Deku is not exerting 100% one for all, but creating a pseudo or false equivalence by utilizing his other quirks for filling the gap in power. We know the true reason Deku is doing all of this. He wants to save everybody he possibly can. He wants no unnecessary casualties. He wants to keep All Might safe, which is backed up during the panels where Midoriya thinks back to Nana, Gran Torino, and even Shigaraki, the pain that they've been through, where it then pans onto All Might and himself sitting together. He doesn't want to lose that, so he's working towards his goal of keeping that intact, even if the way it comes across seems heartless. All Might then tells himself that he swore to protect Deku, but he knows what it feels like as an inheritor of One For All. He knows the weight of responsibility on Deku's shoulders right now, and that's why it's important sometimes to just stop and take a break, because he's been in his shoes. And this is also something All Might failed to do whilst he had this burden. He doesn't want Deku to make the same mistakes. Back in chapter 130, we learned that Night Eye foresaw a future in which All Might dies a gruesome death. But after the injuries he suffered in the first fight versus One For All, Night Eye requested All Might to retire, yet he ignores his plea, instead going back out to save everyone who's waiting for him. Just like Deku now, All Might carried all the pressure on his own shoulders. Night Eye protested, ultimately resulting in them never working together again. And we all know how that worked out.
No, don't pull. No. Ah!
All Might and Deku's paths are currently paralleling each other, and this is exactly what All For One wants. He knows that Deku is broken right now, and by segregating himself from everyone, which leaves him vulnerable, it creates an opening for him to strike. I truly think this could be one of, if not the final moment that these two meet in person. If they separate themselves and forgetting the promise, All Might could die, just like Night Eye. Should this be their final encounter, then the chances are that Deku will first learn about All Might's potential death through the Vestige world. As we know, All Might's Vestige isn't fully present, but once he eventually dies, he will be able to fully communicate with him through it. Deku then leaves All Might behind, jumping away into the distance, without even taking his stretched out hand for help as he falls to the ground. The worst part is that Deku doesn't even look back anymore. He doesn't even bother to glance at All Might's vulnerable state. That's how we know that the Deku we all came to love is currently dead. He's completely changing, fam. At this point, from the shadows hiding behind a building, we see Hero Killer Stain, eavesdropping on Deku and All Might's interaction. Now, the last time we saw Stain was in chapter 300, after he broke out from prison and finding a sword to use. Stain being free, whilst the story of how the heroes are being put through a sieve showcased that Stain's role is once again needed in these desperate times. Going back to Stain's statement in chapter 55, that both shamed hero society and the criminals wield their power in the name of petty thief are all targets of his purge, all for the sake of a better society. Now, even though this scene makes it seem like Stain might target All Might, the chance of this happening is low. We have to realize that Stain actually respected All Might and even Deku at one point as a true hero. These are the heroes he would never hunt. However, Stain might actually end up helping All Might and target Deku, especially since overhearing everything. Deku is slowly turning into someone else, someone who doesn't smile every time he saves a person and isn't as selfless as he was before. This is not the perfect hero All Might was trying to train Deku to become, nor is he the true hero that Stain foresaw in him. In chapter 55 and 56, Stain acknowledged Deku as a true hero for protecting others in spite of the danger. Due to this early recognition, he spared Deku and even went far to save his life, risking his own from the Nomu attack, if you can remember. Stain respected Deku's conviction to the point where it resonated by Stain idolizers like Spinner. In chapter 78, Spinner prevented Magni from killing Deku, stating that he was the boy that Stain saw fit to save, thus being a man worthy of the title of a true hero. However, seeing Deku falling away from what it means to be a true hero, Stain will make it his objective to snap him into reality.